Yeah, 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 yeah. I do what I want. I look what I want to look at. I do what I want. It's the king of Jank. Whoops. Where am I? Where am I? There I am. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's your boy, your favorite demon, trying to act like a heathen, because you know I be chilling and breathing. Your boy Karu, and today we're going to be watching some SCP. I can't get that right. I'm sorry. I apologize. We're going to watch an SCP video on the indestructible reptile, SCP 682. Let's get into it.
So begins the SCP Foundation file on the dreaded SCP-682, a highly intelligent reptilian monster that has, despite the Foundation's best efforts, proved impossible to kill. It may not be the most dangerous SCP out there.
From Full Metal Alchemist, you remember Envy's monster form? That's what that reminds me of. It's probably what the artist got the inspiration
considering
for.
That some are capable of eliminating entire realities, but it's one of the most iconic. And you've probably heard tales of the monster that death forgot.
No, was it Greed? It was Greed. He looked straight up like Greed.
So afraid of the so-called hard-to-kill reptile.
But
it's been subjected to some of the most deadly weapons and traps the Foundation could devise, and survived attacks from some of its deadliest fellow SCPs. But before we tell you about the Foundation's many failed assassination attempts against the so-called hard-to-kill reptile, we need a little more groundwork on what this creature even is. The first thing to know about SCP-682 is that this thing wants you and everything you know dead.
Why?
Unlike some other creatures like SCP-096 and SCP-173, which are murderous but exhibit no real higher processing skills, SCP-682 possesses cunning, advanced reasoning, and even human-level logical intelligence.
Oh no.
SCP-682 can engage you in conversation, but just talking to the creature calmly and cordially will sometimes cause it to enter its rage state, where it becomes even more dangerous and volatile.
So
the beast is perpetually kept in a tank of powerful hydrochloric acid, melting its tissue to prevent it from reaching its full potential and going on a rampage. The creature's most terrifying asset, and the reason it's proven impossible to terminate thus far, is its incredible adaptability to any and all external stimuli.
Well, that sucks.
682 is a reactive being, capable of not only surviving and regenerating from all attacks, but often incorporating those attacks into its own wide arsenal.
He's the worst
In other
type
words,
of Pokemon.
if you're hoping to kill this thing, you better kill it on the first hit. Because if you don't, you better believe it's gonna hit you back 100 times harder.
He's like the ultimate
This brings us to the main
villain.
event. Some of the SCP Foundation's most ambitious and frightening attempts to terminate SCP-682, or even understand how it could theoretically be terminated. There are quite literally too many unsuccessful attempts for us to list them all here, so think of this as a highlight reel of the Foundation's most prominent failures. 682 was first cross-tested with SCP-017, a humanoid shadow.
Do you want to discover how I got over 1 million subscribers on YouTube?
You want to discover how I don't give a damn?
Without getting in front of a camera and without even recording videos? If so,
that's kind of rude.
Entity shown to be able to consume matter with its shadows and leave no traces behind. Tests on tissue samples from 682 showed that SCP-017 was able to consume said tissues with no adverse effects. However, when SCP-017 was placed into the containment chamber with the actual creature, 682 let out a horrific roar that was so loud it damaged nearby audio equipment.
Holy shit.
SCP-017 fled to the corner of the room, and 682, in its rage state, attempted to breach containment. Agents managed to suppress and remove the creature, but no meaningful damage was logged. Attempt failed. SCP-173, the killer statue, was later brought in, hoping that its thus far impeccable track record for killing would hold strong.
No, I messed it all up. I ruined it. Oh, dude.
SCP and going on a rampage.
We're gonna get back to where we was at.
Quite literally.
Because that was getting interesting.
Arsenal. In other words, some of the SCP Foundation's most ambitious and frightening attempts to terminate SCP-682, or even understand how it could theoretically be terminated, hit you back 100 times harder.
The Hulk. That's the word.
This brings us to the main event. Some of the SCP Foundation's most ambitious and frightening attempts to terminate SCP-682, or even understand how it could theoretically be terminated. There are quite literally too many unsuccessful attempts for us to list them all here, so think of this as a highlight reel of the Foundation's most prominent failures. 682 was first cross-tested with SCP-017, a humanoid shadow entity shown to be able to consume matter with its shadows and leave no traces behind. Tests on tissue samples from 682 showed that SCP-017 was able to consume said tissues with no adverse effects. However, when SCP-017 was placed into the containment chamber with the actual creature, 682 let out a horrific roar that was so loud it damaged nearby audio equipment. SCP-017 fled to the corner of the room, and 682, in its rage state, attempted to breach containment. Agents managed to suppress and remove the creature, but no meaningful damage was logged. Attempt failed. SCP-173, the killer statue, was later brought in, hoping that its thus far impeccable track record for killing would hold strong. The second that 173 was introduced into the testing area, 682 retreated to the far wall and began screeching intensely. It was intelligent enough to know what it was dealing with here. While the researchers and guards expected an instantaneous reaction, there was actually a stalemate for over 6 hours. As 682 stared at 173 continuously. Eventually, the tie was broken when agents shot out 682's eyes with high-caliber sniper rifles, breaking the line of sight and causing 173 to attack. Though 682 sustained damage to several parts of its body, while its eyes regenerated, the creature was not killed. It then regenerated a number of eyes all over its body, covered in a clear armored carapace that made them resistant to bullets. The stalemate continued for an additional 12 hours, as 682 maintained perpetual eye contact. 173 was eventually removed from the containment unit, and the mission was aborted. Attempt failed. In their desperation, the SCP Foundation restored to bringing in another dangerous and seemingly unkillable monster to take on 682.
The little, because some of us know, but like in Africa, the little idols, the little things that they use, they're called fetishes. And I dated a girl that was from Brussels, France, that had family that was from Africa. And her grandfather was a village chief. And like her name, oh no, I feel horrible, I don't remember her name. But her name meant fetishes or African spiritual items or spirit item. It's a crazy whole concept.
SCP-096, also known as the Shy Guy. As astute SCP fans will already know, this being kills anything that sees its face, with no known exceptions, and when it enters its attack mode, it's thought to be quite literally unstoppable.
That's crazy.
Or at least, it was. While SCP-096 was able to destroy 85% of 682's original body mass during their 27-hour battle, it was left mentally broken, wounded, and huddled in the corner. To this day, if ever confronted with SCP-682, the Shy Guy reacts in pure terror, turning away and clawing at its own face. Attempt failed.
Bruh, how you get the boy that's literally built for this to be like, nah, that, I don't want to do it every day. He said none of that, bro. That man said clawed his
During a
own
deadly
face.
containment breach, SCP-682 also went head-to-head organically with another iconic SCP Hall of Famer, SCP-106, also known as the Old Man. The Old Man and a shape-shifting psionic anomaly known as SCP-953 broke into 682's containment cell. The Old Man pulled both of his fellow anomalous combatants into his pocket dimension to continue the battle on his terms. However, despite losing 67% of his body mass during the ensuing pocket dimension showdown, 682 still prevailed, with the Old Man eventually fleeing back to his cell, and 953 being collected and taken away by agents. Once again, SCP-682 continued to hold the title. But it wasn't just cross-testing experiments, intentional or otherwise. The SCP Foundation's quest to kill 682 led them to a number of more conventional murder methods, all with varying degrees of success. Due to SCP-682's highly adaptive abilities, some methods were discounted from the outset. For example, launching a powerful thermonuclear missile at the creature was soundly rejected by O5 Command, on the premise that if the creature wasn't destroyed and evolved to the point where it could shrug off nukes, humanity would be pretty much done for. Other ideas were abandoned just for being too ridiculous, such as one researcher's suggestion to fly the creature through the air and drop it from a considerable height, hoping to kill it with a high-altitude impact. I'm not sure we even need to tell you why that's a terrible idea, but During the experiments on
They said,
SCP-682,
drop it out of the
the
sky. Dude, a nuke couldn't even stop it.
studies ranged from honest to incompetent to straight up evil. One guest researcher fed 2 small innocent children to the creature just to see what would happen. He was then himself fed to the creature for his sadistic behavior, which was viewed as getting in the way of his professional conduct.
Well, that's crazy.
After all, the Foundation is meant to be cold, not cruel. It was SCP-682 that had the monopoly on cruelty. The medic kill agents were a resounding failure. They attempted to dismember 682 with a powerful laser, only to have the creature develop reflective surfaces that displaced the beam and caused catastrophic damage to the area around it. They attempted to kill the creature by sucking all the air out of its containment facility and create a vacuum, but it expelled a dangerous gaseous compound that reacted violently and exploded when air was once again introduced into the room. The Foundation used high-precision blades to slice SCP-682 into approximately 12,000 pieces, then separated these pieces. Unsurprisingly, by this point, this attempt also failed. The 12,000 pieces reformed a short while later into the fully operational killing machine we all know and fear. In one particularly frightening display of intelligence and adaptability, the Foundation attempted to kill 682 with extreme heat, but it shielded itself by developing a second carapace composed of solid helium. When personnel entered the room following the failed attempt on the creature's life, it shattered its helium carapace into deadly shards that fired around the room and shredded all Foundation personnel in attendance. It had set a trap, and that trap had been wildly successful. The creature's ability to adapt to seemingly any offense is unparalleled, to the point where Foundation staff have no idea how to classify this creature, whether it's organic, inorganic, or even alive at all based on any definitions we could understand.
It could be bioorganic.
At every turn, the creature just raised more questions. What is it? Is it possible to destroy it at all by any means? Who was even trying to kill who here? Because it certainly seemed like SCP-682 had a masterful KD ratio by now.
He's just chilling,
more extreme feats of cross-testing continued in the Foundation's growing desperation to eliminate this monster. SCP-162, which is a hypnotic ball of sharp objects, hooks, and high-tension fishing line, was introduced to 682's containment cell. The hooks latched onto the creature and tore huge portions off, including its entire lower jaw and one of its limbs. However, 682 was still able to breach containment, kill 11 people, and badly wound 86 others. It regenerated its severe injuries in no time. The beast was even taken to the domain of the Gate Guardian, one of the proposals for SCP-001. The Guardian had a flaming sword hotter than the sun, capable of destroying its targets on an atomic level. Naturally, SCP-682 survived and regenerated.
Of course.
Perhaps the most fascinating cross-test of all is between 682 and SCP-053, who manifests as a kind, innocent little girl with the unfortunate condition of causing homicidal tendencies in all who come into contact with her for more than 10 minutes. The people with these tendencies would then attempt to harm the girl, but would immediately drop dead shortly after, leaving the girl intact. The researchers present anticipated 2 possible outcomes here. The optimistic outcome, in which 682 enters a rage state, attacks 053, and died for good. And the realistic outcome, in which 682 attacks 053, possibly experiencing some minor injury or nothing at all, and 053 had to be removed from the containment cell.
That was useless.
But that didn't happen. What did occur was considerably more shocking than any kind of violence. When 053 entered 682's containment chamber, the monster became uncharacteristically docile. Researchers and staff were baffled and watched with amazement as 053 approached the terrifying, immortal, mass-murdering monster and began to play with it. 682 even allowed 053 to draw on its face with crayons. Researchers thought they must have been dreaming, seeing this surreal display
what is
play
going
out.
on?
053 even appeared to have affection for this unkillable misanthrope. It was a single act in defiance of everything they thought they knew. When Foundation personnel entered the containment cell to separate the two, 682 went ballistic and killed multiple guards. 053 also wept, sad at being separated from her new friend.
Holy snap.
To this day, despite further testing, the Foundation has no idea how or why this happened.
682 can smell her killing intent. Well, not her killing intent.
It's shrouded in deeply frustrating mystery. And so the tale of SCP-682 continues, in spite of the Foundation's best efforts. The monster continues to breach containment and slaughter with some regularity, taking out its seemingly limitless hatred for not only human beings, but anything that dares draw breath. Nobody knows where exactly the creature is from, what its true nature is, or why its ability to adapt and regenerate far exceeds any known organism on this planet. Perhaps one day, through enough research and cross-testing, we can someday answer these questions with scientific precision, but until then, we only have one answer. Hatred never
damn
dies.
thing is indestructible. Like that was fucking gnarly, bro. I'm not gonna lie. What is this thing from though? Let's find out. What is the origins of SCP? Bro, I don't care about this commercial, bro.
Now, those of you who couldn't get involved in the campaign can now go and get your own copies, and you can even get a full set with a brand new awesome slipcase to keep them all safe and contained in, just like the poster set. Follow the link below to the Shopify page, and from there, straight to Amazon.
Because in fact, the snake from the garden, and after being cast up by God, the Scarlet King found and took him in, made him more powerful. I think God cursed. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. This is what we're gonna do.
The doors to the shipping container were pulled open by the attending D-Class, and an enraged creature came bounding out. It instantly grabbed one of the men in its mouth and cleaved him in two, swallowing the... Quick word from this video sponsor, and we'll get started. A year ago, there was a very successful crowdfunding campaign for the SCP art books, and now the very same team have released a brand spanking new SCP Calendar just in time for the new year. It comes with 14 huge, highly detailed prints for your wall, 12 for this year, and 2 bonus ones for the start of 2023, and a special SCP-themed tube to keep them all safe and contained from month to month. And that's not all. The SCP art books are now for sale on Amazon. Now, those of you who couldn't get involved in the campaign can now go and get your own copies, and you can even get a full set with a brand new awesome slipcase to keep them all safe and contained in, just like the poster set. Follow the link below to the Shopify page, and from there, straight
All right, enough with the ad. Get to the video. Shame. No. Y'all, I got a habit of just clicking buttons on my mouse thinking fucking up shit. Here we go.
Amazon. Now, those of you who couldn't get involved in the campaign can now...
I'm here.
Men ready to slaughter them where they stood.
I was trying to hit like and subscribe
for now,
on his stuff.
The creature
also,
had more
am I trying
important
to be
things
sure
to
to
do.
hit the like and subscribe?
It turned and quickly put the men behind it, sprinting away to freedom.
He's out of
He
here.
heard a voice in his head. It was commanding him to leave.
But who?
The strangeness of the situation struck him almost immediately, and so did something else.
So the creature,
The ground split in two as the reptile was struck. One of the most powerful and mightiest entities the Foundation had ever encountered unleashed its fury on 682. Another blow descended on 682 before he had even hit the ground. 682 took a deep breath of scorched earth and his own flesh as he rolled onto his back. His entire being was charred and red raw. He pulled himself out of the crater to see an angelic being standing over him.
Holy snap.
The snake slithers back to the garden.
Huh?
Uriel.
He spat blood and burnt meat onto the ground.
What?
You corrupted my lord's vision.
I simply suggested they eat the fruit.
After another blind flash of
Oh!
light, 682 was hurtling across the landscape once again, this time with
He's
a
the
massive gash in his
freaking
abdomen.
snake from the
His entrails
Bible?
followed, not too far behind
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, snap. That explains a whole lot. It's indestructible, it's immortal, it's intense hatred of humanity. That one little girl with those powers and stuff, and he's like, yeah, I'll fucks with her. She's cool, she's cool, she's cool peoples. Oh, man. Satan?
him. He groaned in his crater and began consuming the earth around him. Lost muscle and flesh began to regrow.
Which makes sense,
Armored
too.
plating began to cover his extremities, and he began to grow. He could feel his bones creaking and snapping, adjusting to his new form.
Holy snap, bro.
You command me to die after the curse your lord laid upon me?
What is the curse?
682 stood tall
Holy snap.
and stared down the angel. Everything about his new form was catered towards bringing death to this being.
Bro, what?
The
I don't want no ads. I don't care about ads.
There.
And I don't care about Jeff Goldblum. I'm just playing. I care about Jeff Goldblum. I ain't got no hate for Jeff. Let me look at him. Jeff Goldblum, the gay uncle we all love.
Uriel brought his sword up and stared back, waiting for the reptile's first move.
Bruh.
With a monumental roar,
Ooh,
682
shit.
bounded towards Uriel.
Taki.
Just as 682 was upon him, Uriel swung his sword around and brought it swiftly into the side of
SCP's
682's
already
head.
going ham already,
The receiving side of 682's
wait a minute,
skull.
so 682 is motherfucking Satan, dog? What did I do wrong? Oh. Let's go.
Shattered, sending a hailstorm of blood and bone fragments to the ground.
Oh, snap.
The reptile quickly recovered and used the impact's momentum to swing his tail around and slam it into Uriel's side, the spikes going deep.
All right, I'm an
Uriel
SCP.
brought the sword swinging back, separating 682 from his tail in a flash. He followed up with a hard kick to the beast, sending it crashing backwards. Uriel glanced down at his wounds and gave 682 an acknowledging nod. The reptile
wait a minute. Hold on, bruh. I watched one on The Guardian on my own. Nobody can even get close. First of all, you close this motherfucker, you didn't incinerate in flames. But like, you literally made him bleed. I didn't even know it could bleed, bro. I thought it was just like a pure because Uriel's obviously Angel. For those who don't know, I guess in every SCP video, I guess that'd be my little niche there. For those who don't know, Uriel's one of the, I think it's 7. Ooh, a new one, 870. Uriel is one of the, I think he's one of the 7 or one of the top 4 guardian angels, along with, it was Moloch, Uriel, Michael, and Gabriel, and I think it was another one. But it's not one of the 4 horsemen angels, because the 4 horsemen are a manifestation angel group too. But he's not in that category. Uriel's like you know, like that the definitive guardian angel, like the definitive fighter or the paladin. If you use the thing of all the guardian angels, who's the paladin class one, like that does all the guarding and protecting? Uriel, that's kind of Uriel's dealio. Sometimes Uriel will go down to the human world, manifest as like our greatest warriors and stuff like that. So from the video that I watched earlier though, Uriel, damn near indestructible, and has a sword that's as hot as the surface of the sun, but is such control on a magical level that it's not burning the entire existence of everything. Because, like I said, it's gigantic. The blade is hot. The being itself is hot, and it's attack mode. Like, yeah. So, like, bro, 682 is the fucking garden. I mean, garden. It's not a garden. I mean, it's a garden of genetic anomalies. But now we know why, because it's a magical aspect to it, because it's the fucking snake from the Bible, Garden of Eden, the freaking serpent that tricked Adam and Eve into biting the apple from the fruit of knowledge, the tree of knowledge, if you will. He is indeed Lucifer.
Struck the ground, causing it to bubble and split between their feet. The faults ran deep and lava began to bubble up from between the cracks. 682 lowered himself to the floor, never taking his eyes off Uriel, and began absorbing the fire into his form.
That's crazy.
Uriel took a step back into a defensive position and readied himself for the next strike. The beast began to convulse before expelling a mixture of magma and acid at the angel. Uriel brought his sword back and wrapped his many wings around his form. The mixture settled on them, but did not penetrate. 682 moved in to press his advantage as the angel's wings unfurled and showered the beast in its own cocktail of searing hot acid. 682 fell backwards, screaming in agony as his eyes melted in their sockets. Uriel brought the flaming sword crashing down on 682, splitting him from head to chest. A final cut was delivered and the beast's lower limbs were removed, leaving it to crawl on the floor. 682 didn't even try to get up.
How dead is it though?
Exactly where a snake should be, on its belly.
Damn, bro. Bruh, shout outs to Uriel. Uriel be talking that good, bruh. But he bagging it up. Uriel's got the coldest you ain't shit talking game I've ever seen. He said, as a snake should be, on its belly. Damn, dog. Holy moly. He's going off right now, bro. Wow. Hold on. Ugh.